Welcome to Kathy and Susie's Kid Podcast. I'm Jordan.
And I'm Matthew.
And I'm Harold.
Harold's here today.
There you go, Harold.
How are y'all doing? Hey, gentlemen. Thanks for having me on.
We appreciate you coming, dude.
Absolutely. Anytime.
So so you guys know, Harold is one of our good friends who's also one of our Neptune brothers.
I am.
Visiting in town.
Absolutely.
From Texas. He just moved over there, what, about 2 years ago, Harold?
Going on 3 now. Going on 3 in July. Yeah.
So what brought you over there?
Kind of work-life balance, really. There's been a lot of changes in the healthcare kind of arena in the last couple of years, and it's specifically affected a lot of smaller areas, kind of like here. So just, work-life balance primarily.
Yeah.
Primarily.
Well, I guess let's take it back a little bit before that and let
Sure.
you tell everybody what you do for a living. I
am a certified registered nurse anesthetist. I went to school at LSU. Well, I'll start from the beginning, way back. I'm originally from Nicaragua, born in Nicaragua. And I was born in 1975. There toward the late 70s, there was a lot of political, social unrest, civil war. Very dangerous area. My first memories growing up as a kid were tanks in the streets when I would walk out onto the porch of the house, and I remember seeing what now I realize were dead bodies thrown on the side of the road after a night of fighting, whatever firefights, and so I remember one of the first things, my first memories period as a child. I remember walking with the maid. My mom was at work, and apparently we were going to go get something. And I saw a man by the side of the road, and I remember the gun attracted me. I saw the gun, and I was like, "Wow, look at what is that?" You know, I was probably 3 years old, maybe. And so I don't know what it is, but it just I started gravitating towards the gun. I was like, I gotta go see what this is. And I remember the guy was slumped over, and his eyes were wide open, but he wasn't moving. So obviously he was dead. And as I started walking towards the man, I remember the maid just yanked me like that real quick, like, keep walking.
Get back over here.
Right, get over here. But anyway, shortly after that, my mom obviously did everything she could to obtain visas for us to get us legally the hell out of Dodge, if you would.
Oh, yeah.
And so we came over here. My great uncle was already in New Orleans. We moved over there, and then my mom met my stepdad, and we moved to Diamond Head about probably like 1980 or 81, somewhere around there. So there was nothing in Diamond Head. It was almost
no golf
brand
course.
Spanking new. Oh, the golf course was there. I mean, they broke ground on it, like I believe in like 72. But the house that my mother still lives in, I think it was built in the 70s, 77-ish. So it was kind of one of the original kind of cookie cutter homes in the area. And a lot of those are still they've seen better days, but a lot of them are still around. But anyway, so we moved there around 81, and then I lived my whole life on the coast, and then went through Southern Miss, not having much direction, not knowing what I wanted to do with life, because my mom, I was the first one in my family to ever graduate from college, ever go to college, and so my mom just was like, oh, if you go to college and you'll automatically get a good job. Of course, everyone knows it's not like that, especially not now. And like every generation gets worse. But yeah, so I initially was an international business major, and I got that degree. I went to law school at Loyola for about 3 months, and that was definitely not what I wanted to do.
Ooh, a lot of reading.
Yeah, a lot of reading.
You're about to be a lawyer?
I was contemplating it. I was trying to parlay this into like an international law type degree, but I didn't realize that I was going to hate law that much. And it was drudgery. It was terrible. So because of that, I said, well, now and then I was just kind of stuck. What do I do now? MBA. I was living in New Orleans at the time, which actually, we're talking about, I guess, on the topic of violence there, the house that I shared with 2 girls that were friends of mine from Our Lady Academy. They're from here on the coast as well. Shortly after I had moved out, the lady that was our landlord, because we rented, it was like a little loft that she had in the back of her house that we rented, that we all lived in. She was stabbed to death in the middle of the day.
Jesus Christ.
What?
Sunday, in the middle of the day, someone came over, knocked on her house, and when she opened the door, they literally stabbed her to death in broad daylight and robbed her. Insane. Just crazy. I had been moved out of there probably maybe 3 months when that happened. But anyway, I know I got off track there.
No. This is
kind of going all over the place.
Well, that's
like,
what,
Jesus, that was a buzzkill.
Well, with our show and podcast, it's kind of like, this is what you just talk.
Yeah, we got no direction.
Yeah, there's no direction on how you feel. Like, I was more going, can you imagine Harold in the suits he wears now?
Sure.
I mean, Harold's probably the best dressed on the coast when it comes to suits.
Well, I appreciate
him and
that.
Cantrell.
I appreciate that.
I would say them too, but like Harold with the patterns.
Yeah.
Like, he wears these suits that are, they're custom. He even said today, bro, like, I got a guy that makes my suits. I'll get you in touch with him. But his suits are very unique because you walk up to him and they're very, fit perfect.
Yeah.
But he always wears like different patterns and.
I try to mix it up because I'm not lucky like you guys who have these great beards and great hair. So you guys have a lot of ways that you can change your look just based off of that. I don't have any of that shit. So I have
Can you imagine being a lawyer though with them suits?
Yeah.
Win every case.
You look like a lawyer.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there's still aspects of my personality. I think that I could have been very, very good at it. Actually, it's funny you just brought that up. I had to defend myself. The town of Westgate, which is a little ritzy over there. It's very close to where I live. I was driving to relieve a buddy of mine who had to go pick up his kids. And, he's in the operating room, and I'm trying to get over there to him so he can, go pick up his children. And I get stopped. And I had no idea why. This is 2 o'clock p.m., middle of the day. And I get pulled over. He just immediately, he sees me at a stop sign. He's perpendicular to where I'm heading like west. And he stops. And the second he sees my truck, he just hits the lights. So he gets behind me, and I'm like, I don't even understand what's going on here. So and then on top of that, hits like, so he's acting like I can't see him. So then he starts with like the light, like he's being really obnoxious with it. So he starts like blaring the siren like I don't see him. So I just go into a turning lane. That's the first thing I had. So he gets behind me and he walks up, till he walks up to the window and he goes, "Do you know why I pulled you over?" I have absolutely no clue, officer. He goes, "You have too many forward-facing lights." And I was like, my first instinct is, I didn't say this out loud, but I'm like, is that even a thing? Like, I've never even heard, you're talking about a state that you can drive a motorcycle legally 70 miles an hour with no helmet.
No helmet on, yeah.
But you're telling me that too many forward-facing lights is somehow that's like a public health hazard? Like, I don't know, like, how that's causing an issue. So he writes me a ticket. It's a $300 ticket for...
Jesus.
Yeah, exactly.
How many do you have?
Basically...
Did you count,
no,
did you count the lights?
No, there's 10. There's 10. He was taking pictures of them. And what I like to say was I got a ticket for driving through Westlake without a Range Rover. That's basically what the ticket was.
Yeah.
But
so you learned your lesson.
Exactly. Get a Range Rover. Kids out there, get a Range Rover. So anyway, I of course I'm not going to take it like lying down. I'm looking the statute up. So I get online, look up the statute. Sure enough, everything that's in the state of Texas that pertains to off-road lights in general, there's not a single one that says there's a quantity limitation of lights on your truck. The statute reads you can only have 4 forward-facing lights on is the operative term, at one time. I had 0 lights on.
You got pulled over for having just lights on your truck.
Correct.
No.
Quantity of lights is what he pulled me over for. Exactly. So I look up the statute. Sure enough, it's not that. I have to go to court twice for this. Where the first time the prosecutor's like, well, I honestly, I've never even seen a ticket for this. I have to look this up. So even though I have all the documentation, everything I need right there, the statute, I have supporting documentation from a similar incident where they were talking about it, the San Antonio chief of police, basically reiterating what I had looked up in the statute. He wouldn't look at it. The prosecutor wouldn't look at it first, and then I have to come back again. So I have to waste 2 days of work just to go defend myself for this. So the second day I'll come over there, and then, once again, I'm prepared. And I'm like, okay, so this is the issue here, Mr. Prosecutor person. This is what the statute reads. I have it highlighted. I have all the statutes that pertain to lights in the state of Texas, so on and so forth. And of course, he just goes, man, this is ridiculous. So he just signed off on it and said, get out of here.
Really?
That was it. So
you're 1-0.
Yeah. So, but I would have loved to have been. Yeah, exactly. I would have loved to have been a trial lawyer because I was like, yes, I got him.
But we're gonna definitely share a picture of his truck because it is ready for the zombie apocalypse.
It's really, it's even by Texas standards, it's really gaudy. It's really obnoxious.
I was
gaudy.
gonna say it probably fits in more over there than here.
Even in Texas, people are like, man, you need to tone it down, bro. That's a little
Yeah, but it's your truck.
Pay some horns on the front.
It's
of it.
ridiculous right there.
It's your truck, though.
Right,
You know what I mean?
yeah.
Like,
I know.
It's your personality.
I know. It's you know, I wanted a nice 4x4. I got it. So, you know, after this, I got it out of my system. I'll go on to
When's
something
the last
else.
time you took it muddy? Got it muddy? Took it muddy?
I haven't really got it muddy just because it's my primary vehicle. I don't want to start jacking stuff up on it.
No,
But
never.
as soon as I get the next vehicle, I'll probably go ahead and
Yeah, that's one of the ones
jack
you
it up.
never sell.
Yeah. No, you're right.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
one of the
I love
ones
it.
you
Keep it.
till the wheels
I just
fall
seen
off
it. Like,
of
you pulled up, I was like, man.
It's
I mean,
it's
you just
gaudy.
want to like, hey, man, let's go take a cruise.
It gets it gets a lot of attention just because it looks like a ridiculous swapmobile. But
Got 10 lights facing forward.
exactly.
Have you seen his?
Right.
Have you seen his custom bumper on it?
Thanks.
Yeah,
Somebody handmade that
Thanks.
bumper, put it on there with spikes.
That thing's ridiculous. It really is. But like I said, that was like my, you know, I've always wanted a really nice 4x4. I had to live that fantasy at one point in my life, so I went ahead and did it. It's out of my system and on to the next thing. But yeah, it's definitely well equipped for whatever needs to be done
No doubt.
off road. But anyway, yeah, where were we? I can't remember where
No,
we were going
I mean,
with
we're
this.
I think it was, you know, your home.
Texas,
Your
right?
mom
yeah,
got
I mean,
you
right.
here.
This
You're
is
in
what stuff we
Diamond
want to
Head.
know. You know,
Back in Texas
Right.
now.
So, well, so with the whole law school thing, that's where we kind of veered off on the tangent there.
showing the lawyer side of you
The
came
lawyer
out during the
side,
ticket. You're
loved
just
it,
explaining you still
loved
got it.
Undefeated.
I kind of
Don't
felt
mess
like,
with
man, I
Harold.
kind of
You pull him over, you got problems. You pull him over, you're gonna have problems.
If I feel like it, I might just go back to law school and get my
hot.
my law degree. Why not? But anyway, so then I had a buddy of mine that used to gamble a lot at the casinos. I worked at the Casino Magic when I first got out of school, and he used to come there. I worked in food and beverage, and he was a gambler, but he owned a couple surgery centers in St. Charles. He was a nurse anesthetist, and he said, hey man, why don't you look into that? You know, it's you make pretty good money. You know, it's a nice gig. You have job security. They always need you. So honestly, I just kind of took him up on it, and that's what I did. So I rerouted my way through nursing.
So you went to Ole Miss, clearly.
No, close. Actually, it's funny you said that. I did apply to their law school at one point.
Okay.
When I was kind of going through all that process. But didn't make the cut. Didn't make the cut for Ole Miss. But got into Tulane and got into Loyola. Got into a couple other ones. So anyway, I ended up pulling the trigger on the Loyola.
Now, doing you the nurse anesthetist, like, do you have to be a nurse for a little while?
You do, yeah.
So how long do you have to be?
Well, you have to have your bachelor's in nursing, so that's 4 years, and then you have to work for. Most places you require at least 2 years of ICU. It's critical care is the important thing. You have to get your experience in the ICU arena. Some places are a little more flexible and they'll allow you with a little emergency room, but that's not as common. Everyone wants ICU because that's where you really learn your drips, you learn your ventilator settings, you learn your extubation criteria, things of that nature that you're going to really need a lot when you're doing this basically kind of on your own, because the anesthesia kind of runs the room.
And the reason I asked you that was because I get a lot of people all the time that I'm gonna be an RN nurse and then I'll be a nurse anesthetist.
Sure.
But right off the bat.
Yeah.
Like, and that's the mindset, and it's
No.
this right here just kind of give people an insight of like you said. You just told me. It's tough. It's a real.
Sure. Generally speaking, you're going to have to do at least 2 years of ICU before they even kind of look at you, and then you have to go through the admissions criteria, of course. They look at you top to bottom, like most schools do. Your work experience, your grades, anything that pertains to how you might be successful in that arena.
Character tests.
Character tests. Not so much that, but they do a lot of anything you might have done extracurricular, anything kind of work experience related that would pertain, and obviously the grades and the didactics is very important. But yeah, so you do have to work in that critical area for a couple of years, and then when you go back to school, it actually starting in 2014 now it's a PhD. So I was one of the last classes that got ushered in with a master's. So you can't have a master's anymore. You have to have a PhD that started in 2014.
Wow.
So now you have to have a doctorate now.
Lucky you.
To be right. Right. But my program at LSU was 32 months anyway. So honestly, for the PhD program, I haven't really looked into it, but I guarantee it's not much
you
longer.
might do it down the road.
Right. Just not much longer.
You might,
Sure. Or go back to law school. Who knows?
Yeah.
But start
start being a doomsday prepper.
You
never
either
know.
one of those. All
Start a
three.
podcast.
All three. Why not?
Yeah.
What the hell?
Start becoming a wrestler. I
Right.
always, I always thought he'd be a
Knees
good
are too
wrestler.
bad for that, but yeah, the knees are. I think the knees are gone.
I think all their knees are gone.
Yeah.
That's like my
but-
favorite thing about Harold. Like I love even though he's gone and he's still in our line. Like Harold lives in Texas, and our crew's here. And like,
Oh, yeah.
our line 5 is a family, but like he still comes to our events. He lives over there, and he'll fly in or drive in.
I get hilarious Snapchats all the time.
Well, these Mississippi is always my home, and these are all, you guys are my folk. You're my people.
Yeah.
And that's it. Always will be that way. I mean, I grew up here. Like it wasn't necessarily my choice to leave, and even though I have a great, I guess the overall quality of life in Texas is a lot better, and it's really booming right now, particularly the North Texas area. It's kind of like they're calling it like a second boom. It's like at first it was built kind of on oil money. That was a long time ago, but that's way gone now. Now it's all like Fortune 500s and
they're all moving out there.
Yeah,
and
the
land.
the
I think is what it
corporations.
really
There's
is.
land, but there's also a lot of there's a lot of incentive for companies to come in. There's not so many. There's a lot more regulations than you know of in states that kind of really curtail and handcuff how much places. And Mississippi's one of them, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And I would love to see Mississippi, become more invested in with these companies and bring jobs in and bring.
I know they're getting there.
Higher
It's
quality
getting
of life.
better since I was a kid. Since you was a kid, it's gotten a lot better.
Yeah.
But still, yeah. I hate whenever Ingalls is like the main, and no discredit
driving force, right?
No discredit to Ingalls.
Sure,
at all,
of course.
But whenever we got Nissan up in Jackson, that was a huge big deal for them. So.
Yeah, but we need a lot more diversity in the industries.
And
that are
we
coming
also
in.
have land.
Sure,
So-
of course,
so that's just a
absolutely.
great
That's
game.
another. Yeah, absolutely. The Delta, all that needs to be developed, man. I mean, they just need to kind of get on that.
I
I'd
want all
love
my
to see
deer hunting
Mississippi
friends to
jump up.
hear that.
Yeah, maybe not. Yeah, I don't know. That's true.
I just seen a post. I mean, you can get some hunting land in Texas.
Yeah. Oh, you can. Oh, there's land's definitely.
I think we can hunt in Harold's
That's our
backyard.
primary resource. Actually, no, my lot's pretty small.
Did your so is it Robin's?
Yes.
Yeah, Robin. So she's in the tech world, right?
yes, she is.
She's brilliant.
She is.
I've had a conversation with her. I'm like,
Very,
what?
very intelligent. Very good at what she does.
So she's got opportunity was great for her because
Sure.
Texas is booming for that kind of work.
Well, actually, the good thing about also what she enjoys is that she works from home because most of what IT directors in that particular industry can do as far as support and that kind of stuff, that you can do all that from home. You can do it remotely. And she's based. Her company's still based out of New Orleans, but she does a lot of things. They do on the computer. Where
super nice office probably.
Right. Well, yeah, it's in the house. I mean, she doesn't have to leave the house. She's there with the dog. She's there with her to drop her
his house?
She drop her child
his
Gab
house.
off to school, and she's there when Gab comes back. So there's a lot of perks to it. She doesn't have to fight traffic. She doesn't have to get up, real early, get ready, go to an office. She doesn't have to do any of that. She does all that kind of remotely, from her computer and from home, and she can do all that in her pajamas if she wants, unless she's presenting.
Then
where
she's
they do
just
the
got to put
virtual
a jacket on.
Right. Yeah. It's kind of like sport when you watch them on SportsCenter where they got like shorts on and like flip flops up top and then up the top, or it goes out the bottom, and then up top they got like a suit. It's like that.
We need to know about food though, like Texas food or our food.
Well, obviously I come here not just to see the people, but to gorge on seafood because this is where you come for seafood.
I bet they got steaks there.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
So,
It's a
that's
trade-off.
Barbecue,
That's what you're gonna
barbecue.
find. That's what you're going to find is barbecue steaks, particularly red meat, of course, any kind of steaks like that. That's huge in Texas. That's what they're known for as far as their local culinary and delicacies, whatever. But yeah, I mean, over there, it's such a diverse amount of people. You can also, there's like, you can go get Indian food. You can go get Thai food. You can go get Russian food. You can go get anything you want because it's such a it's such a large metroplex and it's growing by
it's
the
not
day.
an option of
It's
six.
like we have like Pepe's and
Right,
Toronto.
right, here,
Yeah.
right. Here you're not gonna have You're gonna have like a couple Mexican restaurants. You might have a hibachi place here and there.
And I'll tell you right now, I can tell you right now, a lot of people are like tonight, getting the Eagle Rare, I went to the store,
Sure.
got a couple bottles, and
Absolutely.
the lady sitting there just slow because of the weather, tucked in Will Market, her little liquor store.
Mm-hmm.
And I went in there and I bought 4 bottles, because I said, how's your day? She's like, kind of slow.
Sure.
And then I left saying #shop local.
Right. Yeah, of course.
She started smiling. I
Sure.
was like, can I get all of? Oh, I'll leave one bottle.
Oh, it's very important to support.
And that's
to
where we
support
get
the locals, support the local businesses. I mean, that's huge. there's not that much of that. Obviously, over there, there's a lot more corporate.
Yeah,
that's what I was thinking.
Influence there. So you're not going to find as much of that over there, in at least not North Texas. But it's like anything else. There's perks and there's drawbacks to anywhere you live. So, but anyway, yeah, you're not going to find that as much. There's a lot more.
And you're a big golfer, so you do have a lot of golf courses over there, huh?
Tons of them. Yeah, I wouldn't say I'm a big golfer. I enjoy golfing. I mean, I suck just like the most people that golf do. But
true.
I enjoy it. I enjoy
it's your game,
It's
man.
fun.
Play it.
Exactly. It's enjoyable. It's fun. It's definitely something that I couldn't do a lot of when I lived here, just because of the amount of workload I had. But yeah, I have a lot more free time where I can get off early. Get off by noon. Get off 10:30 in the morning, be on the golf course and go play 18 holes.
So what's your average work day? How many hours you putting in?
It just depends, honestly. This is the slower part of the season, so a lot of the times, I mean, right now I might work. Man, probably on average, I would say maybe 28 hours, 32 hours, a week.
You hear that, kids?
Yeah,
Stay in school.
Right.
But compared to and this was he said earlier, before you even started, he said, let's break down Mississippi versus Texas in the hours you work.
Well, also that also depends too on who you're working for, the entity you're working for. Mm-hmm. Our company, we cover a lot of outpatient surgery centers. We do have some contracts where we support other anesthesia personnel at hospitals, but we also have a lot of pain management clinics, stuff like that. So this is like the slower time of the year. So right now, it's just not as much work. I mean, a lot of times I'll go in, I'll do one case. I might go do one elective gallbladder. I might go do a couple of pain injections and be off by 9:30 in the morning.
That's when I get all the Snapchats.
Right, exactly. Yeah, because I'm
I need
bored.
to get him on Snapchat.
I'm bored, so I'm jumping up. I'm like, what's Brooks doing? Let me send him something stupid. But yeah, but now primarily when you're an anesthesia provider, when you're in healthcare, towards the end of the season where the deductibles have been met, that's where it starts getting a lot more busy. So we still get pretty busy around October, November, December, because everyone's trying to hurry up and push and get those, whatever procedures they need done, whatever surgeries they need done. They need to hurry up and get it on there before their deductibles
Resets.
roll over.
Yeah.
So
that's a lot of money for deductibles. Most plans,
of course.
it's up there.
So nowadays especially. So yeah, so that makes a big difference. So yeah, we're still gonna get pretty busy towards that part of the year. But right now, yeah, life is pretty good. I mean, but obviously, if you work here or if you work in Texas, if you're working a level 1, level 2 trauma center, you're going to be very busy. They're going to have a lot more staffing over there, so it might not be as much workload as you would get in this area, which is way smaller. So less personnel, less professionals in the area. But it's still going to be pretty hopping. It's going to be pretty busy.
Explain to us what a level 1 versus a level 2 trauma
center
is.
Well, it depends on what they have as far as what surgeons can support certain surgeries. Okay. Really, you're going to have certain amount of neurosurgeons that are available at all times, a certain amount of cardiothoracic surgeons that are available at all times. So it's going to be that kind of criteria. So it just depends on, like I said, the type of surgeon and what surgeries can come in and what they have to medevac out or ship to somewhere else.
Right.
That's going to determine what you are as far as a level. But obviously here, the facility I was working at here, it's level 2. They're very busy, so you're going to be getting a lot of traumas. You're going to be getting a lot of neurosurgeries. Someone with a ruptured aneurysm, they might have to send to the cath lab. Just a lot of different things, obviously, emergent heart attacks, aortic aneurysm ruptures, all that kind of stuff is going to go to you. And we, generally speaking, over there, we don't support a lot of that, or if any, so we don't have those hours. We don't have to do. Our primary mix over
Makes
there.
sense.
Yeah, our primary mix over there is just like easy because
gallbladder removal.
Ortho cases. Yeah, what we call bread and butter is what they call it.
Jared, low hanging fruit.
Jared Seymour, he's a nurse anesthetist down here. Jared is, and
I know Jared.
Yeah, he's got a podcast.
Jared's cool.
Tuesdays he's on call. And he can't be 30 minutes from his work. So he's like,
have to be,
I wish I lived, he's like, man, I want to come hang out. He said, but I got to be on call.
Have to be, yeah. You have to be 30 minutes response time immediately.
And he's serious about that.
Sure, of course.
Of course. Is that one day a week or is that more than one day a week?
It depends. Right. I mean, it all depends.
Are you getting paid when you're on call?
I don't know how their structure has changed since I've left. Back when I was there, it was all encompassing, all salaried.
Right.
So
That
your
makes
salary
sense.
was just your salary,
Makes
and you
sense.
had to support what they told you to. Now I think it's changed. The structure's changed a little bit now. To I believe that they're starting to reimburse for for extra for call, extra for different things that you might be supporting as a provider. But that wasn't like the case when I was here. So part of the reason, once again, like work-life balance I was telling you about earlier.
Yeah.
So let's go on a little break real quick, and we'll come back in.
Sure,
How's that
absolutely.
sound? All right, we're gonna get some more stories coming from Harold and the zombie apocalypse.
All right, let's do it.
It's guys, Saturday.
Yeah.
It's our parade.
It's ready.
It's ready.
It's here.
I've used the phrase several times this weekend, and I think I've used it before with some new guys that joined. I would skip 100 balls just to ride in one parade.
Sure, shit's getting real now.
Yeah.
Yeah, shit's getting real.
I know, the beads are purchased.
Sure.
The floats are in, or they're coming in this
I
weekend.
haven't actually purchased beads yet, but I need to get on that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
No, we know guys.
That'd be nice.
We know
You know
guys.
people?
Yeah, I know
All
guys.
right, well, so I got to get with y'all because
But the reality of it is, it's going to be the biggest and best that we've ever had. And I thought that about the ball this year as well. I've been in for a long time, and this was actually probably, the best one all in all together.
yeah,
Especially packed wise.
sure.
So, but I think the parade, we've got more bands in it this year. We've got more parade floats in it this year. We've got more outside floats in it.
Is it
this
still in the kind of the designated time frame, or is it going to go over longer?
year. No, it's supposedly still same. Now I think they have the after party kicking off at like 7:30, something like that.
All right.
Now, we probably won't get there till 7:30, 8 o'clock.
Sure.
And we'll be pretty sober when we.
Well,
get
actually, I had considered, until I was cursed by you earlier, but I had considered not riding in the parade simply because I'd never made the after party.
Yeah.
Just because
With you,
by the end of it, generally speaking, I need like 12 Taco Supremes. Really? Yeah.
Well, it's going to be the yin yang of a good time.
I'll bet. That's what I was saying. That's the reason why I was like, let me just take 1 year and not ride in the parade so I can enjoy after party festivities and just kind of at least be around it,
There's always been that.
everybody's gonna be
Is
so
it too
drunk
much?
though. You're not gonna get it.
True. Yeah. Oh, I'll get it.
I always get it.
I'll get it. I just like I said, I just won't be physically incapacitated to the point where I'm just
It depends. To me, it would depend on when you plan on driving home.
right.
I mean,
gotcha.
you got time to recoup from it.
Oh, I do.
and
No,
then
that's
drive
why I'm
home
leaving on
from it.
Tuesday. But the only problem, the parade's on Saturday. Sunday, recoup. Monday, I'm supposed to play golf with Chandler and Jacob O'Keefe, and then wake up real early Tuesday. I like to leave. I like to get on the road like real early.
Yeah.
I'm one of those that I wake up at like 3:30.
Get it done.
And just throw the frickin' dog in the back and start knocking it out. Plus, I want to try to get inside the Metroplex before traffic starts because traffic's some other
Oh, I can only imagine.
Oh, it's bad. It's bad. So, if you're getting in there anywhere after 3:30, yeah, good luck.
Kiss it goodbye.
Good luck. Yeah, you're gonna be in traffic.
That's one thing we
for
take
2
for
hours.
granted here in Mississippi.
Oh, of course, absolutely. Here it's wide open. You just,
Yeah.
I'll just hit it.
And I often tell people, I'm a
Hit
culture
I-10.
Mississippian. We travel. And whenever you get outside in other towns, it's just literally bumper to bumper. I remember being in Denver, Colorado, and there's 5 lanes on the highway. And there's a stop sign on the highway or a red light.
Yep.
And I'm like, who in the world?
Oh yeah, here I love it. I love it when I used to, when I lived here, and the biggest thing you had to worry about was, cruising the coast. That's the big. That's usually the one that gets everyone.
And
Elicits
people
all
complain
the,
about it. They're
Yeah, that's what I'm
so
saying.
loud.
That's what everyone gets so pissed about. They're like, I just can't get anywhere. And you're like, are you freaking kidding me?
That's how I feel about Callan.
Yeah, it's done ball game.
I do that.
Yeah.
Maybe I need to do that.
But I think the biggest issue with me too is the time that I have to get up in the morning. I have to get up in the morning, usually a lot of times by 4:30, 4:45 in the morning. So my natural circadian rhythm, the way it's set, just me. If I don't even drink, if I just stay up, like say, if I'd have stayed up till 7 o'clock the other night and not even drank at all, it would literally take me 3 or 4 days to just recuperate from that. Like my body would just be so out of whack from staying up, that late all night. I
gotta ask you something. A lot of people like Jeff O'Keefe.
Sure.
Called me about it. Said loved us talking about books. I sent him some books because he said, man, he said y'all were just, when Sean hit me up and I do books, 2 books a week.
Yeah.
This is audiobooks.
okay.
Well, I'll do the same one over and over again.
Sure.
Because I feel like you're not getting enough knowledge. And I'll just keep
Of
going.
course.
So did you do any books to kind of get you on this track? Did you do any kind of thing? What got you on this schedule? Because it seems like a pretty cool schedule you got going on.
As far as what do you like? As far as the way it pertains to work, or what do you mean?
No, just like your sleeping
socially?
patterns.
Oh no,
Is all you?
No, definitely the sleep pattern comes from work because just from anesthesia, you're there. You have to be there very first thing in the morning. So, you know that going in. You know that's what you're signing up for. So, most of the time, it's very rare that you're going to get surgery starts anywhere after 7:30. Usually you have to be there. And a lot of times in Texas, it's spread out. So I have to get up way early to drive, to just drive.
On the traffic.
Right, exactly. Well, fortunately, the hours that I get up, usually that's before traffic.
Right.
So I am kind of blessed in that way. But a lot of times, too, it's just how Texas is set up, like you were talking about all the land, it's so spread out. You have a long driving distance somewhere. Anywhere in Texas you got to get to is going to be 30, 45 minutes just about. So because of that, you have to get up early just to get there. And then you have to set up your case. You have to learn all about your patient, everything that's going to go on, everything that could give you problems, all their comorbidities, as we say, everything that the sicknesses they have, everything that might present a challenge in the OR, and then you have to formulate your case based off of that. Then you have to go pick up your patient and do your job.
How brilliant is he?
So
This guy?
no, it's not. It's just the average. It's what we do. I mean, I appreciate the compliment, but I mean, I think all CRNAs, that's just how we are.
Yeah.
No, me and Matt just get to sit across from a guy that's just talking. We're
getting educated.
Yeah, we're getting educated. You're giving us
and we're
knowledge.
educating the public
Yeah.
out here as
Did
well.
you hear Matt say, I might need to do that?
Yeah.
I might. Well, I think for me, my patterns came just becoming a dad soon.
Yeah, sure, of course.
I couldn't.
Everyone's different.
I did it for 6 months, and I was like trying to still parties, trying to stay up, and then it's like
It's hard.
no,
Yeah,
because he like today, I try to wait on y'all,
sure,
and you call him like 3 o'clock, said I'd be there about 3:30.
sure.
I go lay on the couch, bring him home. Taco Bell. He loves Taco Bell and Baja.
Sure.
Sorry, guys.
Jeez,
Get my
who
kid
doesn't?
Baja.
Who doesn't?
And Baja and Taco. And me and him share in cinnamon twist.
Sure.
It's our thing.
Yeah.
And
The little dad,
Yeah.
the father-son bonding on
Well,
the cinnamon twist. That's awesome.
the lady knows me because I get my Baja. He gets his Baja. And I
Right.
give him a straw. He'll spill it all over my, whatever.
Sure.
Just let him be a man. Little
Yeah,
man.
right.
Then he gets home, and then I'll just lay on the couch, and I'm watching over him, but I'm kind of just let me just rest.
Yeah. No.
No.
He don't want to
Now
rest. Yeah.
And he's sitting there. He was squatting on my face. He just came up and jumped on my face repeatedly. So it's like you just get to a point, and if you're hungover, if you're lack of sleep,
He doesn't care.
he don't care.
Of course.
No.
And
you're still in dad mode.
It
Yeah.
feels like the worst. So I have to. You'll find me, guys. I always have Pedialyte with me. Ask Brooks. Bananas, Pedialyte.
Sure.
I mean, I have to stay prepped because I love hanging out and having a good time.
Sure.
But I don't like feeling like crap,
Oh, nobody does.
and I'm not doing it anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. Luckily, well, you're lucky that a lot of people, I don't want to call it a rock bottom, but to a certain degree it is. You finally wake up and you know what? I can't do these parental duties. I can't do these, job constraint duties, everything I have to do, and feel like shit. I just can't do it.
Right.
So you finally have that epiphany where you grow up. You're just like, I can't,
Make your
or you
conscious
start,
decisions,
right.
one or the other.
Unfortunately, some people never get there, but most people do.
Right.
So
Or learn
so, yeah.
what works.
How to pace yourself, how to, what you have to do to right. And the day drinking is one of those things. Like if you want to have a good time, fantastic. But, get up and have a nice little brunch, on a Sunday.
A little live
have
music,
a couple,
little live music, little
Right.
Bloody Marys,
Bloody
Bloody
Mary.
Marys.
couple
Some
Bloody
eggs.
Marys, couple mimosas, and then, have a couple hours of good drinking and hanging out with friends and talking, enjoying music, enjoying life, whatever it might be. And then, you have yourself a nice dinner at 5:30 and you're in bed by 7:30 and you feel okay the next day,
I know. That's one thing that sucks about football season is I really get to watch the late games sometimes.
Right.
Because it's
Right.
so late. And I tend to watch maybe half of it and then doze off and fall asleep.
Oh, no.
Check your phone first thing in the morning to see if your fantasy football team won.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I do that a lot. Yeah, with Monday Night Football and stuff like that, especially. And then sometimes during the weekend, I won't even because I'm not much of a pro guy as much as I am a college guy. So I do enjoy watching the different conferences. I do enjoy comparing Pac-12 teams.
Do you like LSU?
versus- A little bit, yeah. We did okay this year. We did okay, but I mean that's where I went to anesthesia school. So I mean, that's,
No, I mean, I'm just.
I know you're jacking with me, sure. But yeah, I mean, yeah, we had a good year. But I mean, obviously, every year's it's the successful.
Yeah.
Everyone gets drafted. The coaches get poanged.
Where's
and then
Joe
it's- you
Burrow going
start-
to end up?
Who knows,
Is that
man? I mean,
Sanders?
we were obviously rooting for the kid, but
Bengals.
well, that's the front runner right now. But I've heard that they're already starting to take offers from different teams. At first, they were pretty adamant about, look, we want the number one. We're not, but now I think enough people have started to entice him with other
What
things.
about that Tom Brady? Was it 30 million or 60 million?
60 million for 2 years? What I heard.
Ooh,
You know,
wee.
Did he
Yeah.
sign it?
Yeah, to go to the Raiders.
I'm pretty sure
that's
he's
what
going
they
to
offered.
be.
Yeah,
He put his
I
house
don't know
up
if
for
that's
sale.
I don't know if that's an official offer. I think that's just
I know, but he put his house up for sale.
So
I mean, he's making moves.
Sure.
And his trainer with a TB12, I've done that book.
Sure.
See, I just have to do a book. So TB12 is Tom Brady and his trainer have that TB12, their organization.
Okay.
I mean, it's a facility.
Right.
They train multiple athletes. It's not really just a book. It's him and his trainer really figured out how he can extend his life, his age. And they turn it into a facility.
Right.
So his TB12 is actually like a program.
Right.
So he put his house up for sale, and his trainer put his house up for sale. So they were thinking, he's going to sell himself, no big deal. But his trainer did it at the same time.
Yeah.
So what does that tell you?
Yeah, well, they're obviously about to pull the trigger together somewhere.
Yeah.
And if you've done that book, you'll know.
Yeah.
You'll understand the friendship because like Tom Brady's, it's beautiful. Like when he trains with his team,
Sure.
they're at it even if it's at his house.
Yeah.
They're eating together. They're talking. His wide receivers, their family.
Well, I think to a certain degree, Breeze has been that way too. I mean, Breeze is, I don't know if he has that same type of, of a relationship with one particular trainer the way Brady does. But I mean, he's obviously kept very, very good care of himself. And he still plays at a pretty elite level. The only thing is in sports with athletes like that, you always know that, the arm is the last thing to go.
Right.
So if you'll remember Peyton Manning a couple of years ago when they won that last Super Bowl, like he literally went from setting records the year before, he had like 55 touchdowns or something like that, and 5,000, 6,000 yards, to like the next year he couldn't even throw 35 yards.
Right.
Like he was
Brett
so
Favre, same way.
Yeah, he was so inept at that last Super Bowl. The defense did everything. He was basically just a figurehead. He was just out there. He wasn't even a decoy at that point.
It was a threat. Yeah.
Yeah,
Really
they knew he couldn't throw more
I'd
than
like
35
to see Tom
yards.
Brady at the Las Vegas Raiders. Because he's won so many rings.
Sure.
And if he goes and joins the Las Vegas Raiders and wins a
I
ring,
think Gruden would love to have him.
10-year, $100 million contract.
Yeah.
That's what Gruden gets. $10 million. It gets $10 million a year.
Yeah.
I met John Gruden, or blah, blah,
I mean, I would like to see it just because that's one of the trips we're planning for next year.
Yeah.
We always have several away games that we look at on the schedule, and we do it mainly just because you get to go to different. That's the one thing you don't get with college sports, which I way more enjoy the atmosphere, the arena of college.
I love LSU. My cousin Kyron, he went to LSU and did sports marketing and all that. I mean, he's really LSU alumni.
Sure. Yeah.
But I love LSU fans.
Yeah.
They're Saints fans. I mean, it's the blood. It runs their family.
Yeah.
Good food, good tailgate, good drink.
Yeah,
A lot of
sure.
laughter. I mean, it's football.
But
Corn dogs.
The good thing about the pro game is that you get to go. We like to pick different cities that we've never gone to, and we like to go and fly in. We like to stay a good 4 or 5 days before the game even starts. Exactly. Enjoy the city, enjoy the sights, enjoy the people, enjoy the food, the culture, whatever, and then it all culminates with the game, and then you go home. So we kind of like it that way. So this year we're looking at. I've never been to Mile High. I don't think any of our road our little crew that goes on these away games has been to Mile High. Mainly because it's really expensive.
Yeah, I've been.
Have you?
Yeah.
I just want to go because it's historic. We looked at it several years ago. I think it was like 1 or 2 years right after we were out of school, and it was just a regular season game, and it was like $800 per seat just to get in the stadium.
What?
Yeah, it was insane. It was the highest I've ever seen a regular season game ticket.
Ours was like $7.
Just to get
and
in.
It was terrible.
That's
But they were
crazy.
both undefeated. They played the Chiefs that year. And
Yeah.
they were both undefeated.
And
at
that's
this time.
that's a big game,
And it was a big
rivalry game, sure.
And it was free.
But this is
this
literally like the third or fourth game of the season, and it's a regular season game. There's nothing on the line. It's just the Saints at Denver, and it was like $800 a seat just to get up and barely see anything. I mean, you're so far up there. So we decided to not pull the trigger that year, but now we're getting to we got to do bucket list things now.
You do that.
Well, which is bucket list things too. So it's like we got to get in there. So we're looking at Las Vegas and we're looking at Denver both.
I might need to do that too. I talk about that. I have with my ADHD, I have anxiety.
Sure.
I mean, crowds.
Sure.
As I get older, it's like,
Yeah.
hey man, I'd rather just not
Watch it on the TV.
or go to a Saints game because I've been to Saints games.
Sure.
I've actually I think 1 or 2 suites. Like
Nice.
it's been
Yeah,
fun, but
sure.
still. Kind of like that little park, like that little outside thing they got going on there.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where I stand.
Oh, you mean
Square.
Champion Square,
Yeah.
right? Because it's nice to spread out. No one's too.
Yeah,
you got a little room.
Or just being at home on your TV and knowing what that camera can do.
Sure. Yeah.
But
That's
it is the
huge.
experience. It's like me getting out of
It's
my
a culture.
yeah.
It is. It
I like
is.
to have a good mix of both.
Me too. But I like looking at, going to places where I've never been to the stadium. I've never been to the city, and like I said, never experienced the culture, never experienced the people and the food and the culinary things that they have to offer, and whatever it might be. So we like to go there and really enjoy that, and then, like I said, culminate with a game, have fun at the game. Hopefully, we get a W and get out of there. But yeah, if you guys are ever looking into away games, always check with me first, because we always go through that schedule pretty tight and start looking and planning pretty early.
So what's the odds on Dax leaving? Leaving and y'all getting Burrow?
I'm not gonna lie.
You think?
I live in Dallas Fort Worth, but I don't care about Dallas Fort Worth sports.
Oh man,
I really don't. Like I especially not the Cowboys. I mean, I have an innate hatred for the Cowboys just because of. And actually, a lot of people think, oh, it's because you're a Saints fan. It's really not. It stems from, being close with the Favres. Coming from down here, Brett Favre, obviously Mississippi boy, South Mississippi boy. I played at Hancock. I played for Brett's dad, Irvin. So, when Brett was coming up with Green Bay, that's when the Cowboys were the established team, and they were the dominant team. And it seemed like they just couldn't get over that hump. Like Brett, when they were, in those early years, they were really kind of catching fire.
What position did you play?
Making wild card. I was a strong safety. So I played defense, yeah. No, I always loved defense.
Fast?
I was back in the day. I mean, my fastest was a 4.65 was my fastest 40.
What?
That's pretty good.
That's really good, bro. That's
high school.
What's
high
your
school's pretty good.
height weight?
Back then I was probably 6'1", about 185. Somewhere around there. 180, 185.
That's good size.
That's decent. It's decent.
But that speed is
decent, yeah.
And you're very were you strategy? Were you a strategy say? Yeah.
We were, back then it's not wide open like it is now. So we were still kind of, from what it is now compared to what it is now, it's still kind of the dinosaur ages. I think the passing game was just really starting to evolve at that point as far as getting to the high school grassroots level, excuse me. So it's not like it is now where everyone, you're running pro offenses when you're in 7th grade now.
Yeah.
So yeah, back then that didn't exist.
Linebacker.
Right, exactly.
Go tackle.
Right. So it didn't really exist at that level yet as far as the evolution of the game at the grassroots level. But no, it's, Irvin, he was an old school guy. He was like, Woody Hayes or, these old
fullback.
school, right, the wing tee. And he didn't really start opening it up until, almost when he was about to retire. I mean, he retired, I think, in 95. So I think, this was all happening around 91, 92 when he really started to open it up and kind of open it up a little bit more for Jeff. Jeff was our quarterback, Jeff Favre, to kind of get a little, maybe some stats, kind of help him out a little bit as far as getting some college exposure and throwing the ball more, especially when I think he just felt kind of bad that he didn't do that for Brett because, Brett was almost just like,
under the radar.
He never threw. So he was almost like a lottery. They just hit a lottery. Like the guy had a massive arm, obviously, and all the potential in the world as far as throwing the ball, but he just never did it. And then he got signed to Southern Miss as a defensive back. He didn't even get signed as a quarterback.
I didn't know that.
I didn't know that either. Whoa, this is happening now.
Signed as a defensive back, and he didn't really they didn't really notice him until basically old school out there probably throwing the ball around. And Brett, you were a quarterback in high school, weren't you? And then he started throwing the ball. And they're like, Jesus, this kid's got an arm.
That hurts.
Right. You start breaking a couple people's hands, and they start looking at you a little bit more. And that's kind of how he fell into the quarterback position at Southern. But, kind of worked his way up from there. But, yeah, I mean, he was, like I said, essentially a lottery pick. They had no idea that he had any kind of significant quarterback potential until he got to Division I.
I'm still a firm believer he could still go out there and make some people currently
definitely.
look
I
bad.
think Brett Favre, yeah.
Oh, Brett could still throw it probably 70 yards on his knees
speed,
right now.
I wonder what his speed was. I wonder what they clocked him on a ball.
I don't know.
You ever watch? When you watch it, though,
6'5",
you watch how the quarterbacks throw, and you see how they throw. Then you watch Brett Favre throw, and you barely the camera. I mean, there's certain frames in the camera you cannot pick up.
I'm not gonna lie. The one play that sticks out watching Brett's career, they were playing the Bears. And it was like about 1994. This is when they were really starting to come into their own, starting to fight for the wild card. And they were playing the Bears on Monday night. And I remember it was like 3rd and goal from, I think it might have been 15, 16 yards. But this guy, he drops back to pass. He's on probably like the 12 or 13. He throws a bullet that went between 3 defenders. I don't think it was the tight end. It wasn't Chimura, but it might have been another tight end at the time. It went through 3 outstretched hands of a defender. I remember the tight end he was in the middle of running a route. He didn't even see the ball. He was running the route. He turned around. The ball hit him in the shoulder and stuck to his shoulder. And as he was falling back, he just happened to put his hand on the ball and scored. And I was like, that thing was so freaking impressive. I'd never seen a throw like that. And I'd never seen that reaction from a receiver, like, holy shit. Like, nobody had a clue where the ball was. Even the defenders, they just kind of put their arms out, like, thinking where the ball was going to be. And that's when I was like, this guy's something really something special. I love
watching him just throw the ball.
Yeah.
So that's where your hatred from Dallas came from. Was just watching them two go at it,
because they would always squash Green Bay back then.
Yeah.
I think at one point I want to say I'd have to go back and look at the numbers, but I want to say that they lost, I think, maybe like 4 playoff games in a row to them, or 5. It was something crazy.
That would be tough.
And it was always they would get right there. And I remember being at Irvin Bonita's house for the NFC Championship game when they made it, the first time they made it. I think it was the 94-95 season, and they were looking. It was pretty tied up to a point, and then right around the third quarter, Dallas just squashed them. It just pushed, pulled away, as great teams do.
Right.
To their credit. But that's where the hatred for Dallas really came from. It's like the Packers couldn't get over that hump, and Brett couldn't get over that Dallas hump.
Well, I like Dak, being from Mississippi.
No, he's a great guy. Dak's a great guy.
But playing down here,
really like him.
That's where my loyalty to the pros goes, is to recognize greatness. Now, does he
Sure.
struggle? Absolutely. I
Sure.
feel like you can't make a pass over 20, 30 yards.
He's just inconsistent. Sometimes he looks really good, and sometimes you're like, what are you doing, Dak?
And then I was excited when they got Amari Cooper over there.
Oh,
and now they're talking about getting rid of him this year. I see that. So
I don't know what's going on over there.
Yeah,
it's
nobody
crazy.
does. That's where I struggle.
It's a carousel, but that's why the sports writers love it, because it's a constant crazy soap opera going on, so they're just loving that stuff.
So your first love for wrestling?
Yeah, which wrestling buddies did you have?
Well, actually, I never had any of those. I was just one of those old school, practice wrestling moves on your friends. Practice, have like on your siblings. We would have parties or sleepovers, shall we say, when we were younger, and we would obviously wrestle at all these things. So we'd be jumping off of stuff, beating the crap out of each other. But like I said, I was a kid in the.
Like I had to say this right now. Like that is one thing of feedback. People are like. It feels like just a group of friends chatting. I'm like, it really
That's
is.
really what it is.
It's a group of friends.
That's what a podcast is supposed to be.
It's like we're just talking. Like we're just chatting.
Just chilling out.
So Harold's a big so this is how it for me started. It was Harold works out really hard. He has a health life, like very healthy, and he works out and takes care of himself, but he always does these every day he does this post, and it'll be like a throwback, like either sports, wrestling, or some kind of throwback that you can be relatable to. I don't wrestling buddy or Deion Sanders.
Yeah, I like to do it. As just my own personal motivation. Like I said, there's a lot of times.
Is that when you go to the gym?
Yeah,
is when you post that.
That's the only time I post.
At the end, he puts and he goes by H.
Yeah, that's it. That's like my electronic signature. So people, if there's not an H on it,
it's not you.
You might want to be a little sketchy. He got infiltrated.
But
no, I just like to put. Something that might inspire me for the day, or something I might have seen, somebody that, was maybe an icon or a legend, a very good player when I was growing up that I admired watching, was thankful to have watched, played, or coached that might have passed away, stuff like that.
Homage.
And an homage, right. So any of that, and it just strikes, it's whatever strikes me at the moment, particularly like, say, a lot of times it's something with me, just personal, like say, I feel like going to get a workout in, but I feel like shit. Like I'm just getting older. Everything's starting to hurt really bad. There's just things I'm like, man, I don't know if I'm going to be able to get through this. So I'll just like, oh, you know what? That reminds me of, mankind getting thrown 15 feet off a freaking giant steel cage onto a bunch of tables. But he felt like shit. Yeah. So let's put.
We're talking like '90s mankind.
Yes,
yeah,
90s
he
mankind.
Was good, like when he came out with the sock.
Straight Mick Foley, right? Yeah. And that's actually when I got back into wrestling, picking up on what we were talking about earlier, like with Attitude Era. And of course, the Attitude Era was just something.
I was still WWF,
totally different.
right?
Of course, yeah. I was never. A matter of fact, I was so back then as a viewer. I was so loyal to WWF that I never watched any WCW.
It didn't even exist.
I missed the entire Wolfpack NWO. I had no clue. Goldberg in his heyday. Missed all of that.
I'll tell you right now, WCW versus NWO, the video game on 64.
Oh, it was one of the best games ever.
My mom went to Tennessee to get it for me. That's how big of a fan I was.
Wow. Damn.
So I was like I had to watch wrestling.
Sure.
I even followed Mankind when he did like Japan. Like
okay. He did
like hardcore
really
stuff, like
crazy,
real life barbed wire. There are wrestling organizations outside of the United States that do wrestling, but they do it real.
Oh, I know.
And he did it. Like he barbed wire, bleeding, suffered.
Yep.
But go ahead. Yeah. So you missed all that.
I missed the period between the 80s golden era, quote unquote, and then I think there was a little bit of a lull there. I missed the WWF days when they had like Lex Luger was there. Ric Flair came in at the very tail end, but he was already kind of, towards the down part of his career. He was no longer really, in his heyday at that point. He wasn't in his prime, right? So he came along probably like early 90s. This is when I was getting out of wrestling. I was already getting into high school, and I was like, I'm not watching this anymore.
Chicks.
Right, yeah, different things.
What got me was Ultimate Warrior and Sting were tag team partners.
Really? Wow. Oh, yeah, that's when I remember Ultimate Warrior had a short stint with WCW.
That was a click, though. That was like my...
but that was your moment when you were like...
Yeah, I had wrestling.
That got you. Yeah. Gotcha. No, it's interesting to see that you have the differences in age and the things that might have sparked your interest for it. But yeah, so I kind of fell out of it right there in the early 90s. So I missed a lot of that when Savage was kind of gaining momentum and stuff like that. And then I picked back up, obviously, with Stone Cold Steve Austin. So when he that's what people were like, man, I remember going to work and guys would be talking about it, guys like my age. And I'm like, you still watch wrestling? And they're like, no, dude, it's like totally different now. Like, you got to see it.
There's chicks.
This isn't like when we were kids. This is a totally different thing. So I'm like, all right, what? So I watched, I watched one of the WWF Raws and watched the Austin promo. And I was like, man, this is definitely a different, totally different angle, totally different vibe. The demographic has obviously changed. This is not for children anymore. This is more like 18 to 32-year-old males. That kind of demographic. A lot of testosterone driven. The storylines were way more aggressive, way more violent matches.
You got in the best part though. I think when Stone Cold did come out, because I was in it.
Sure.
When Stone Cold did come out,
yeah,
that was some of the best wrestling ever.
Yeah, it was just he changed the whole entire, and then him and The Rock.
The landscape. I will say
when they did. Sure. When The Rock had his, what was the crew The Rock had? What was it called?
The Nation of Domination.
Yeah. So and then Stone Cold and the way he carried himself, you're like,
well, really, that honestly, it's funny that you touch on Rock, because Austin was always what was in the business kind of considered what's called a tweener, which a tweener is like, he's not really a good guy, he's not really a bad guy, he's kind of in between, and it's kind
crowd
of
favorite.
Right.
He's got his own.
The people love him, but they don't know what to make out of him. And honestly, in the wrestling psychology of it, they perceive that as being part of his appeal. So, but when The Rock came out, The Rock really was a trailblazer and a paradigm shift in and of himself, because he was the first guy that was forced. This is when he first came out. He was forced down the audience's throats as what's called a babyface, a good guy. And so he came out that way. They came out packaged. They prepackaged him that way.
Rocky Maivia.
Right. And when he first came out, I don't know if you ever seen his first entrance. It was the cheesiest.
I think I have seen
entrance. He's got these crazy little
tassels.
Bands. It looks horrible. And he's got this great smile. And he's just.
They still do that though. Like they pack. There's so many wrestlers that rebrand.
They're doing that because Vince can't let go of that era. Number one, and number two, they don't have the competition of WCW anymore. So of course, once you don't have competition, it breeds a stale product. That's what's hopefully AEW changes that way. AEW is picking up on it. We were talking about that earlier. They've been doing a lot better as far the wrestling is far superior to WWF or WWE now. But as far as the choreography, the way the athleticism, way better matches. They just don't have the storylines yet. So, but honestly, because the storylines have been dipping with WWE for so long that the fans have kind of gotten very bored of that. Right. The writing is just not the caliber it used to be. I think AEW definitely has a shot to gain momentum in that aspect.
There's only so much you can fight about.
Right, sure.
At the end of the day.
Right.
Especially
but they started expanding a little bit more with that, with WWE or WWF at the time, now WE, with the Attitude Era, because they were kind of getting even farther away. They weren't incorporating the actual wrestling so much anymore. It's like, say, when they had the instance where they had the Undertaker and he had like a this underground society, and they were doing this, that, and the other, and they were targeting other wrestlers and doing this, that, and then they had like the I can't remember what McMahon's name was in at the time as far as how it related to the storyline. It was something like the Unseen Force or something like that. Well, anyway, they were always attribute that to the Undertaker, and of course it ended up being McMahon. But the storyline, the plot twists were getting away from not just the physicality of the actual match; they were just different. Right. They were going in a different era of more storytelling. It was getting more involved. But I think that's when they just had superior writing. I think the writers were on the basis of the creativity of the writing team that they had at the time, and now they just don't have that anymore. Those writers aren't there.
And then I like to think nobody else was doing it.
Sure.
And when nobody else is doing it, then you have something that the people.
But WCW was pushing them with more reality-driven storylines, so that was forcing WWF to do the same thing.
Right.
But even though, like I was saying, it was more of a fantasy. My example was more of a fantasy storyline. But what I'm saying is, it was getting more away from just the root of just wrestling. Two guys don't like each other in a ring.
Right.
It started getting more complex. So I think that's what was the attraction at the time. And of course, it was the people that did it. I mean, the charisma of Austin, the charisma of The Rock, the Degeneration X Angle.
Pretty iconic.
All that kind of, yeah. I mean, those guys, it was right place at right time. It was like a perfect storm. And now all that's gone.
Yeah. Well, Vince knew what he was doing.
He did. But to me, if you're a wrestling fan that like I said, Jordan and I were talking about this, I don't really follow it anywhere near as much as I used to. I'll watch a little bit here and there. I have friends that were, that we followed it over the years, but we don't watch as much anymore. I'll catch a couple of AEW matches and I'll watch a little bit of the storyline. But anyway, in that aspect, it's like I said, the creativeness and the people that were involved at the time that made it so great. And at the same time, those people they're not given the chance anymore because Vince he just wants to make money. So he knows that you have these, no matter how old these guys are, he's going to be wheeling out Shawn Michaels in a wheelchair, 10 years from now, if he's still alive, and Shawn Michaels is, and he still can, or is willing to come out. They just keep rehashing these Attitude Era stars because it helps sell pay-per-views. It helps sell merchandise.
I think Next will overtake.
Well, I think at this point, Vince McMahon is kind of like Al Davis was towards the end of his tenure with the Raiders. He's so out of touch with the product, but he still wants all this immense control, particularly on the creative aspect of it. So now you start seeing these ridiculous, these gimmicks that are coming out, are like the gimmicks from the 80s, and that has changed so much. But I think McMahon, number one, can't see that. Like he thinks that formula, because it worked 30 years ago, is going to work again. Number one, and number two, he's more worried about just selling merchandise to kids.
Right.
So he knows that the kids are going to go, Mom, Dad, I want this shirt from blah, blah, blah. And it's just easy money. He doesn't have that creative push because WCW's not there anymore, breathing down his neck.
No. So, but I'll tell you where he does get some push from, and that's the UFC, because they kind of taken what he, branded. And you've seen, the past few fights that I've seen, they have almost what seems a staged
of course, and that's been that way for years. They've done that in boxing for eons too.
And because of that, it draws in people that are just there.
Of course, they want to see a grudge
interaction.
match.
The grudge match.
They want to see the grudge match.
And in wrestling, that's what they thrive off of.
Of course,
is that
of course,
got your fans that they latch on.
You have to have a good guy. You have to have a bad guy.
They latch onto their wrestler.
Shout out to my favorite UFC fighter, Brandon Davis.
Brandon Davis.
Shout outs going out.
Another Line 5 guy.
Yeah, that's my boy. Played video games last night.
Awesome.
No, I'm with Matthew on that. Like I noticed that.
They had the one where his sidekicks or his trainer jumped into the ring and started fighting after the match was over.
Oh, sure. I mean, but like I said, this is nothing new. I mean, that was happening in Tyson fights for real back in the early 90s, late 80s.
It comes down to viewership.
Yeah, of course. You're trying to sell merchandise, trying to sell a product,
and marketing.
And if you're having naturally with him, if you're having trouble from the televised portion of it, the televised product, then the merchandise should make up for it.
Right.
So whatever audience you are getting, particularly if they're kids and they're telling their mom and dads they want this t-shirt, they want this doll, they want this blah blah. Well, the merchandise is going to help you obviously keep making money. So it's kind of the easy way out. But I mean, if you don't have any significant competition, why not? You don't need. You just take the low-lying fruit, like you said. It's just the easy way out, right. But you don't need anything else. So why? You just make the money that's there.
So in merchandising, I know I've seen you with them.
Yeah.
Tell us about your belts.
I got a picture of that. I got a picture of the belt.
The belts are between. Here, shout out to my friend Kirk Gillespie, who's
Is that the belt guy?
he's the other belt guy.
Yeah.
We're the ones that do the we've done Degeneration
Super
X.
nice, super nice guy, great guy,
dude. Very creative like yourself. Amazing artist.
Yeah, no, I love seeing
draws
y'all.
really
Mardi
well.
Gras. I was like, oh no,
Yeah.
they just came out. They just did it.
Very great creative side from.
So what all belts do you have?
I have in my possession. I have the '86 Hogan belt, the heavyweight championship belt from '86. I have the Attitude Era Stone Cold Steve Austin belt, the winged belt from '98. And I have the WCW belt, originally WCW, but this is once WWF had already taken them over, and Triple H had won it. This is probably about the 2003 WCW
That's
World
the big
Championship
one.
belt. Right, that's the big
I
gold
love
one.
that. That's a Goldberg belt.
Yeah, it was the Goldberg
I love
belt.
that belt.
That is,
That's the best belt.
Yes. The plaque I have is when Triple H had it, about, like I said, early 2000s. And actually, I had a chance to meet him at the Beau Rivage one time. Him and Ric Flair, very nice guys.
Yeah.
And you know, you could see Hunter looking back on it now. He was so I don't want to say like conniving or calculated or formulating, but he was more like he was a salesman. And when I like looking back, the interaction I had with him, he was very polite, very tactful, but it was almost like he was about to sell me a product, and you could see how that was leading into him eventually looking into taking over the company as he is doing now.
Yeah,
eventually,
because he's a son-in-law, right?
Yes.
And
So
he
eventually,
started Next.
Right.
Next is his baby, and
I've heard Nexus is really good. I've heard Nexus is
watch
really
Next.
good.
I haven't watched
Yes,
it.
Nexus
And
I've heard
Next
is really
is-
good. And I have the network. I have the WWE network.
They got WWE and you got AEW,
AEW.
but then you like Next. It's coming around.
Right.
There's
I've heard a lot of good
No,
things
Next
about
is gonna
that.
go straight up.
Yeah.
You can just see the performance, the way it's Triple X. It's his.
Sure.
It's what he
his baby,
envisioned
sure.
for.
And I think it will get. I think that's the optimism from any kind of wrestling fans who are left over from the Attitude Era, or at least are at my age, that have seen it kind of evolve from that golden era.
A lot of belt movement.
Yeah.
Like a lot of guys that just come in the program, they get a chance.
Sure, of course.
it's just like
And
the minor
that's
leagues.
That's all Next is.
What's called a push.
It's the minor leagues,
in wrestling. It's called a push.
No, it's a minor league. He did it. So if you get on Next, then you have a chance maybe to be in WWE.
Sure.
But now it's just become such a fan favorite.
But the problem is once they get to WWE, Vince takes hold of it, and then he rebrands them and he repackages them as something cheesy from the late 80s, and it kills their whole push. It kills them as a performer. It limits them in the creativeness of their own character, and that's what it's lacking now compared to what it was in the Attitude Era, when it was really kind of you gave these guys creative control. And now they're not. And now, like I said, this gets back to that old formula from the late 80s, and that just doesn't cross over anymore, with the exception of, like I said, selling merchandise to kids.
And movies. He's making movies now.
Yeah.
But, they've been doing that. I think Stone Cold did a couple movies back.
Well, yeah, but Stone Cold never, obviously the Rock is superstardom.
Yeah.
So he never.
I don't think his movies were from the WWE
And the
brand.
funny thing is, the two biggest draws in wrestling history, which are Hulk Hogan and Steve Austin, have never ever crossed over to a mainstream audience in that capacity, in the capacity of making large movies and blockbuster movies. Only The Rock has.
No, Hulk Hogan has. What was he was the soldier from another.
Thunder something.
What was that movie?
He had like one where he was the nanny.
He threw the kid's skateboard into space.
Suburban.
What I'm saying is, can you
Suburban
really mention that in the same breath as The Rock? I mean, The Rock is a superstar.
But
absolutely
on
not.
social media, I follow The Rock even when he did the Walk and Tall or
I think those were WWE.
He was just getting started.
but he did the Walk and Tall, and then he did the one with the guy from American Pie. What was that movie?
Get Shorty.
When he had he was a chef that had to go.
I haven't seen
Rundown.
The Rundown. Yeah, I remember that.
But then you just knew his performance. You're like, this guy, and then you
he's
watch
got
him on
it,
social
yeah.
media. He literally just like works.
Well, his first Saturday Night Live, if you ever watch him when he hosted Saturday Night Live, he did an amazing job on that. And he purposefully asked the writers to cast him in different skits, different characters that were all over the spectrum. He didn't want to be he didn't want to be pigeonholed into just like an action star or something like that. He wanted to be all over. So his range was They did a very good job of that. Actually, I don't know if y'all remember a skit by the name of, I think it's Mr. Beakers, where it's played by Chris Kattan, who is he's like a little monkey, and he'll get up and he'll eat the apple and spit. Well, when the Rock hosted, he did a larger version of Mr. Beaker. They did it at the same time, and so you had Chris Kattan, this little bitty guy, doing his little monkey character with the apple, and he spits it everywhere, and then the Rock is right next to him doing the same and literally going toe for toe with the guy. Like literally, he didn't look like a fish out of water. He didn't look awkward. He was going toe for toe with Chris Kattan, who's regarded probably as one of the better physical comics the show's ever had. Yeah. And that was an amazing thing to watch. You're like, you watch that and you're like, man, this guy's really got a significant amount of range. Like I said, this is not just, I'm an action star. Yeah. It's not that at all. Like this guy can go all over the place.
No, he was a tooth fairy once.
Yes, that's what yeah. So you could see all the different, ways that he could make a character work, right, even though he looked a certain way. Yeah.
He looks now like he ate himself back then.
Yeah, well, now he's definitely going all out push with the action star thing, and they got him on some good help, shall we say.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, he's always showing, I follow him on Instagram. Yeah. And he's always posting his workout videos. Is he? And motivational,
sure,
speeches. And that's one thing that I appreciate is whenever you just take, your life and your experiences and you try to motivate others with it.
But from what I have seen from his videos, and I don't have Instagram, but I've seen some of these videos, he really is, that really is his outlet. Like some people are creative, like you guys, and then he's more physical, but I think that he really, the way he talks about it, he really is passionate about it, and that really is his outlet as far as just that's his thing. Right. That's his de-stress. That's his, when he wants to zone out, just get rid of whatever's on his mind or on his back, whatever it might be. He really, really enjoys it. So
what's Harold's thing? What do you do?
Oh, man, now I just want to go home and sit on the couch by 5:30 and with my dog. But
tell us about your dog.
But yeah. No, nothing special. She's just a little. Yeah, she's special.
Yeah, she's special. Come on, man.
She's
we're gonna get a picture of her. And we're gonna put it right here in this podcast.
This is about us hanging out, so it's about the dog.
She's just high maintenance, man. She's a little French bulldog. Luckily, very healthy one for the most part. But she's just she's a handful, man. I mean, I heard you talking about your toddler, and I'm like, I can't empathize on that level because I don't have a toddler, but it's like, gee, it makes you think of how needy my damn dog is. But she's very, very needy. Yeah, they're needy as a breed too. They're not known for being good, alone for very long.
So she helps you escape. She helps you kind of break loose.
I don't know about that. I mean, it's definitely.
You say high maintenance. Well, you're getting her nails done.
Well, no, not that high. I mean, I do her nails myself, but I do. Yeah.
I feel like we need to follow, like, because if you look at his pattern, it's similar to this 334 goals, work. Listen, like, I mean, you don't really realize this, but you really are inspirational to people to get up and just do it. Like, just get up and, like, I mean, you're like, hey man, yeah, I'm in bed by 7:30 or 8, but like I'm just grinding. Sure. I'm up at 3:30 and I'm doing it. I'm saving lives. I mean, that's what you do, and this is what your heart. If you wasn't passionate about that, but it's like I'm seeing from you, and I've always loved your inspiration. But and you inspire me. I mean, I
appreciate that.
You definitely inspire me. But it's like I love watching you. You're a goal crusher. I mean, 100%. Like you went from being like going to do law to this.
Trying to figure it out. Yeah, trying to figure it out. And the
that's
only
what this show's all about.
Yeah, right. Exactly. But I like to, paying it forward. Whenever I get a chance to talk to someone, a lot of times you'll get approached by somebody and say, hey, would you, my child's thinking about going the route that you did, and so now you're always, whenever you're in the mentorship role, you're trying to obviously steer them away from all
the headaches you've dealt with.
Well, yeah, exactly. Yeah. The wrong turns and, the dead ends that you went through that you had to kind of figure out on your own. And a lot of times those are costly dead ends.
Oh, yeah.
And that's going to end up haunting them, later on financially if they don't watch themselves. So you want to try to
mitigate that.
Exactly. You want to give them the direction you didn't necessarily have through no fault of anyone else. It's just, a lot of people just didn't know. It was just just from an ignorant standpoint. It wasn't like they maliciously didn't, steer you the right way.
I mean, that's just life.
Right.
It gives you different experiences. And
so now, when you go through it and you, like I said, you unfortunately, maybe you got a little more financially indebted than you wanted to during that process. Now you definitely want to steer them steer the kids straight as you can. So look like if this is what you want to do or this is not what you don't want to do.
Figure it
but
out.
before you start shelling over a whole bunch of money and getting into debt, you need to figure it out. So you try to give them as much direction as you can.
But I mean, come on though. For me on this thing that's inspired me is the kid was like 3 or 4 and knew what if like coming from another country and like seeing guns and like was and his mom's inspiration to like go to school and be something.
And that was definitely my mom's influence.
You go from nothing.
Credit that to her.
Yeah, you go from a tough life to see certain things to come into being a nurse anesthetist.
Yeah,
and literally have a beautiful family.
I didn't. My mom definitely, where she really did have the ability to steer me in the right direction, was that she always pushed, you've got to study, you've got to learn the language, you've got to put the time in the books and have the work ethic. So she did that, and that's really the majority of what it is. I mean, that's what's really going to drive you all the way through, regardless of whether you might have a dead end here or there, you might take a wrong turn. Everyone does that in life to a certain degree. But what I try to do when I'm mentoring someone is just so that they don't get indebted doing it. Which I did, unfortunately. I did that to myself and got in a little bit more than I should have, and I'm still digging my way out. But
that's life. Everything happens for a reason.
You're right.
And you wouldn't be able to be the experience or the witness or your testimony that you have now.
Very true. So you take those experiences and you make the best of them. And like honestly, it's like I was telling you guys, as you get older, one of the best ways to do that is to steer the younger ones. And give them some insight and give them some
not too much. Can't teach them everything.
Right. Yeah.
You don't want them replacing
just so that they don't get themselves in a bunch of trouble. And so you try to give them a little more direction that maybe you didn't have. So that it definitely helps in that aspect.
But going on that note, I appreciate you coming on the show.
Of course, I appreciate you guys having me.
And we've had a great time. We're gonna have you back. I mean, you live in. He came like he's with us for the parade. We're doing this weekend. Is our
like
Mardi
I said,
Gras.
my family and my people are in Mississippi. They always are.
Well,
I have some some great friends in Texas too, and some of the great guys that I work with over there in circadian management. Shout out, but it home is always home,
right.
and that's just the way it is. No matter where you go,
home is where your heart is.
Right, home is home. Home is home. And now, luckily, I have the benefit of being able to come home more and seeing you guys. So
we'll have you on again, Harold. We appreciate it again,
Absolutely.
guys. Thanks for tuning in with us. Again, this is another episode of Jourdan and Matthew, and we'll see you next time.
Yep. Shout out, Chat Pack.